Welcome to She Loves the Grid, where we discuss all things F1. Whether it's happening on the track, in the paddock, or beyond the grid, we'll talk about it all. Hello. We are back after a week off. So look who's back. It's us, and well, we'll be talking more about that. How was your week and your birthday weekend now that you're older than me?
I know. So yeah, we did skip last week because I was traveling for my birthday and went to the American Century Championship or Classic. I don't know. It's a celebrity golf tournament in Lake Tahoe. And we had such a great time. My friend Renee and then my daughter met us there. And the main thing was, the celebrities interact with you. And so I really wanted my daughter to get all the people that she, wanted to have photos with. And last year, Miles Teller of Top Gun fame and a whole bunch of other stuff did a video for her, wishing her luck on her first day of work after college. And so this year we made sure to get a picture of the two of them together. And then, yeah, it was crazy. Steph Curry, insane to watch him in game mode. So he was in the final group. He ended up winning, and watching him, because we were right there, right on the tee box, and game face. Like, I've never seen anything so intense. Like, it was insane, but it was a lot of fun. Got a picture with Josh Allen. He would, he's one of those big stars that doesn't necessarily come close, but he posed for a selfie. So I was like, basically, I think I'm best friends with Daniel Riccardo now, because Josh is the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, which is Daniel Riccardo's favorite team. So I'm like, it's like 1 degree. What is that Kevin Bacon game? Like 1 degree.
Kevin Bacon, yeah. So
except I'm just 1 degree because I met Josh Allen. So
I guess I should have done I should have done a proper welcome back to She Loves the Grid and all of that. But I was just so excited.
It's all good. It's all good. Yeah, I just I came back late Monday, and then Tuesday it was just kind of a crazy week. So we're like, well, we'll just skip it. But we're back.
We're back. So look who's back.
How was your week though? You had a fun day yesterday.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, I went to my first Pride festival to go to, and it was here in Berlin, which was amazing. I'm gonna post a video of all the photos here soon. I've got them all compiled together. It was amazing, just the love and the community, and it was just amazing. So I didn't realize that the celebrations go through International Pride Month, which is June, and then all through July here in Berlin. So it was just It was amazing, just the feeling, and my dog had a blast, and everyone loved her. She gained 3 or 4 followers yesterday on Instagram. So
that's amazing. She is beautiful.
Yeah, she's a cutie, but it was so much fun. So that was neat. So yeah, it was good. And then I start my German class tomorrow, so I'm gonna get studied up for that. So tomorrow's Monday because we record on Sunday, and anyway.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. I can't wait to hear how that goes. Like, she's fully going to immerse herself in the German language. And
yes, because my big news is last week my employment visa was finally finalized. Yay. So yay! So I finally started my job here in Germany, my real life job versus this fun thing that we do. So
yes, that's very exciting. You had a lot going on, and that took way longer than you ever expected that visa to take. So at least it's done, and now you guys can really get immersed in German.
Yes, I'm legal. I'm a legal immigrant now. We have a lot.
Oh my gosh. We do, because it finally happened last week. We didn't we didn't tape the podcast last week. So they got rid of Nyck. Daniel is in at Alpha Tauri, and last week when it was announced, it was effective immediately. So of course Daniel raced this weekend for Alpha Tauri, but it was so interesting. Like, we've had, especially I guess I've had opinions about Nyck and how the pressure on him to perform, and I just did not think it was, I didn't like it. I think rookies should have more time to prove themselves. At least give him half a season. He wasn't even close to half a season.
And it's interesting you compare that with, I was just looking at Logan Sargent today. It's like, once again, he's out. Like, and I was like, oh, he's not gonna finish last. He's not gonna finish. And never mind.
Yeah, I know. And that's one thing that people are saying is now that Nyck is out, there's going to be more pressure on Logan to perform because he's still, I think, the only driver with 0 points. And he does tend to, finish towards the bottom or start towards the bottom. So I think that there will be a lot more pressure put on him. I know you and I were very curious if Nyck would be erased from the starting video with the cars. We knew for sure, like, obviously they're not going to have just his face. They had Daniel film that, but Nyck is still in the very beginning with all of the cars. You can just barely see him above the Alpine guys. So I think that's going to be around for a while. Nyck was seen having lunch with Toto in Monaco last week. So there was, of course, starts all the tongues wagging, like what's happening there. Is Toto just collecting drivers that are released? Because obviously Mick Schumacher became their reserve driver this year. So just kind of curious. But Nyck finally spoke out this week, and he said he's going to stay away from social media for a while. But he said, like, it hurts that, his F1 dream ended prematurely. So I can't imagine the pressure on that poor guy. Like, and for it to be so public, and then to be replaced by Daniel Riccardo, who everybody loves and everybody wants to see on the grid. So I know for me, I felt so conflicted because I was excited for Danny, but I felt horrible for Nyck.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think it would have been different, and we'll get to the race, if Danny had come out and had like this amazing, showing today. But it was kind of meh. He's also driving the Alpha Tauri, and there's a lot to say for that. But and again, I think it started out this year with just that bold statement Nyck started last year, right? And I think that just kind of set him up in an odd situation. And you've got to have those cojones, right? You've got to have that confidence and whatnot, because these are the best drivers in the world, right? I get that. And you need that confidence. I don't know, maybe that if it was dealt with a little ounce of humbleness,
but
I don't know.
Strikes me as a very humble person.
He does. He does. I don't know, like, even for the Netflix show probably was making it a little more, sensationalized too, just to get it out there, right? So it's just, I don't know. I don't know why that is, but again, I think for Williams, they're not as aggressive either, and Red Bull, the whole Red Bull family is.
Red Bull and Chatty Cathy, Helmut Marko, are very aggressive. This isn't the first driver that they've, ditched. Albon was there, Gasly was there. They have kind of a list. So I just think, again, in how harsh they are, this all came about, and I think Christian Horner confirmed this, because the rumor initially was Daniel was doing testing at Silverstone, and by lap 12, Helmut had picked up the phone, made the decision, got rid of Nyck, and put Daniel in. And it just happened that quickly, because they said his times, now granted, he was driving a Red Bull in testing, he was not driving an AlphaTauri, but the times that he was putting up would have put him on the front row for Silverstone last week. So Horner pretty much said, I don't know. There's a lot of talk also now that the pressure's on Checo, which we know Checo has. This week he finally got into Q3, but it's
mixed.
Horner said in his statement, Daniel is on loan. Loan was the key word to me in that sentence, to AlphaTauri, which made me think, okay, is that a message to Checo? Like, Daniel's on loan, so Checo heads up, we plan to bring Daniel back in 2025. Then Christian did say Daniel's plan is to be back in 2025. So I think it is a bit of a message. And if I were Checo, I'd probably be shaking. in my boots.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think he has everything he has to do to prove, and you could tell the exasperation, and we'll get to that, but you could tell the exasperation in FP1 in his voice when he had his, like, just right at the beginning, like he could not believe it, and he was driver error, and he can't. But then the race today, he really pushed hard. So
Yeah, absolutely crazy. Well, Alpha Tauri did have an upgrade this week. I don't really know what it was. It didn't it didn't make really any waves, but they did have that. On a lighter note, Williams announced that their livery, the Gulf livery that I've been so excited about, it's the bold, better than bold, or bolder than bold is the Gulf livery that they'll be running. And they're going to do it in Singapore, Japan, and Qatar. So they're actually going to run it for 3 races. So
I'm glad they are. There was a little talk among the commentators about, was this really their 800th, because there was one race that they didn't really start and
way back in the day.
So
maybe it was the American Grand Prix they were talking about. And I think it was a long time ago. Like, for some reason, both cars didn't start, or both cars didn't finish, or, whatever it was. But now we're just, I mean, it's 800. Like, let's give it.
We're splitting hairs.
Let's give it to them. But they did say earlier this week, they did not think Hungary would be the track for this car. And I think they were kind of right on that after, in hindsight. Haas is finally talking about bringing some upgrades after the summer break. So I think it could be cool, because, again, we saw this week, Hulkenberg, I mean, he finished 10th was 10th on the starting grid, but he still was up there. He's outperforming K-Mag by a lot, but definitely they have that 1 lap pace. So if they could find in their upgrades where they can extend that more than just 1 lap, or more than just 10 or 15 laps, how cool would that be to see, like, Haas kind of in that mix? Maybe not up there with, like, the McLarens now and the Red Bulls, but maybe more in the mix with, like, the Ferraris and the Mercedes. Like, if they could figure that out, that would be pretty damn cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Because he finished 14th. So
yeah. So he went down. He started 10th. Where did K-Mag finish today?
K-Mag finished 17th. He was last because the rest of the other 3 were DNFs.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's sad. The rest were DNFs.
Sergio was ahead of him until he had that tire issue, and right there at the very end.
Yeah. Oh, dang it. Well, we'll see what happens after the summer break. I don't know. We've got a little bit of time. But the other thing I thought was kind of interesting, and I feel like this is up your alley too, is the cost cap. So there's rumors that there's 3 teams that reached the cost cap last year. And the rumors are it's Aston Martin, which, honestly, seeing how their car had catapulted, towards the top, it wouldn't surprise me if they were one. Alpine, which, where did the money go if you're Alpine?
Exactly.
Like, they're not doing great. And the third is rumored to either be Red Bull or Mercedes, although there's a German news outlet that's saying it's most likely Mercedes. So
interesting. I would have guessed Red Bull.
I would guess Red Bull too, honestly.
And I would have guessed it was Red Bull, Mercedes, and Aston Martin. Those are the 3 I would have guessed. I wouldn't have guessed Alpine at all because of.
No. Like, what are you?
I mean, they've got so many issues, and I just wouldn't have guessed it was them.
I would too. But what I also think is interesting is last time we had Red Bull with the fine, right? They had a fine that they had to pay. And supposedly, Stefano, the president, said that there should be a sporting penalty, not a financial one. So it just makes me wonder, like, what do they have in mind? So if you have...
If they do that, are they going to go back into a sporting penalty back on Red Bull then?
No, that's just moving forward. They've already fined Red Bull. Like, they're not going to give the money back. So, but moving forward, I think because people were so upset that all they got was a fine, and it's Red Bull, like, they can just pay the fine and be done with it. And a lot of people did not think that was fair. So I think that was why he had said, well, then we should go more to a sporting penalty. So maybe it's a little bit more fair than just not getting wind tunnel time when you're already a top team, or, you're just paying money. But now that they bite some other teams in the booty.
Yeah, then they'll do a sporting penalty and all the ones that, and then just red. Yeah, but it just, I get it. It's just going to make it an unfair situation for the ones against the team that's still far ahead that then didn't get the sporting penalty, right? So they still end up ahead.
Yeah. They still end up ahead. Well, let's talk about practice really quick, because I don't think there was a whole ton.
We'll skip over your fun facts you had in our notes.
Fun facts. So these were I was going to share last week, but there's only 3 drivers to score points in every race this season. And I know for sure these 3 did today's. I don't know if anybody else joined that group, but so Max, Lewis, and Fernando, which I think is pretty cool. Like, they kept it going today. So Max will keep
I think that is cool. That is cool. I mean, that, and I think it's interesting too, because I was, because of you, I joined a couple of the fan groups on Facebook, which are hysterical to see some of these people fight, because somebody posted a crowning Max as the king and look at all these stats for him, and people are like, wait a minute, no one's better. It's like Lewis has way more championships, way more points, way more all of this.
Way more
poles. Well, they're good in their own rights, people. Like, give people due for what they've done. And but yeah, that's a pretty cool stat. That it's Max and Fernando, who's a longtime champion himself,
Right. I mean, they're all world champions, and they've all, well, Max not as long, obviously, Fernando, then Lewis, then Max, as far as how much time they've spent in the sport. But I just love to see those 3 names. Just keep it up.
Yeah, it's awesome. All right, into practice. So that again, like I was talking about, started hinting at the beginning. Started out, it's like, okay, how's practice going to be? And then, Checo, I just started a work meeting too, and I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this and work at the same time. But it's like, oh, red flag. Poor Checo.
I mean, was that his first lap?
No, it was his first flying lap. He'd already done 1 lap, so it was his first flyer.
Okay.
And because I rewatched it today, and that's what we're saying. And it was so interesting though to hear commentators first be like, "Oh, maybe it was something with the car," and it's like, no, it was driver error.
He hit the grass. And you had said before we got on, just hearing how upset he was, his voice, just damn it, once again. And those were brand new side pods. So he had to replace the power unit, I believe. The side pods, I can't remember if it was the brake ducts also, but the brake ducts were new on their car. But I mean, and we've talked before how bad we would be if we were pit crew people, because you see that and it's like,
I was just talking to my partner about that. Like, I took my car and I remember hitting one of those construction barrels that are orange and have the electric tape, right? The reflective tape, but it was on its side with the butt facing the bottom, so you couldn't see any reflection until I got on it. And I went to swerve. It was in a dark Florida highway, or off-road, not even a highway. And I went to swerve, and I was like, oh, that's a ditch. If I swerve, I'm going to flip, and I'm going to hurt everybody in my car. So I came back onto the road, and so I hit it. And, it caused my front fender to get scratched up, and it cracked the wheel well. And it was my nice car. I was like, okay, I might take it in for repairs. It's just body work. But they kept my car a week, right? It was a week for them to replace the fender. I mean, they had to paint it, everything, and order it. Of course, there's ordering and whatnot. But still, the time they showed for them to put it up on the rack and replace it and all that. And I'm thinking, how quickly these guys, I know it's not the same comparison, but still just think about how much work they replaced the suspension and brakes and the gearbox and the wing and all this, sometimes within a few hours or at least overnight, to get them back in the race in a high performing car that's going to be driving up to 200 miles an hour, in some cases, 180, 190, taking these G-forces nonstop for 70 laps. Like, that's incredible what these the pit crews and the engineering and the it's phenomenal. So there's like hats off to what that crew has to do.
It's amazing what they do. And they got him back out at the end of FP2. So, I mean, all of that. Now, definitely a very expensive, driver error. But to get him back out there so he could get some more time, so they could get some data out of that is incredible. Like how they did that, I have no idea. Piastri in FP2, his car was also up on the jacks for a while and he got out at the very end, but he must have done something with his floor and I just missed it. They were replacing his floor.
Yeah, I missed it too, and I rewatched this morning, and I don't remember that. It's lucky that Carlos didn't have anything because we saw that he beached himself, but the track had got so wet during FP1 with the heavy rain and everything.
Yeah.
So,
that's true.
I wonder if he had any issues because we talked about how if the rain that the McLaren pits had got all that extra water in it, right? And
that's right.
They ran into any issues. Yeah, I don't recall him. What happened?
Yeah, no, he was up on jacks for, well, I call it jacks. I don't know, hydraulic. I'm sure they have something fancy, but anyways, yeah, so he was, but I mean, practice was just practice. Like you could tell, the board was all crazy. I never tried to pay too much attention to that because again, we never know who's doing what. There was a lot of cars supposedly running with high fuel loads. And so it just is what it is, but qualifying.
Well, they did say, before we get to qualifying, they did say that they were a little, Red Bull is probably, jonesing a little bit because, they didn't get as much data out of the cars because of Checo's issue, right? So there was that. But yeah, it's like you and I were talking about, like, it's a little bummer for us as fans because you don't get to see as much during practice. But at the same time, they don't want to reveal their hands in practice too about what all they could be doing once you get into qualifying. So it's like a misnomer, man. When you're watching it, the only thing they did say about FP3, because I was gonna kind of watch this morning, there was so much rain overnight that it was like a whole new track,
Yeah, that's true because it poured. I guess it poured. Absolutely poured.
So even the rubber that was from the other races and Porsche and whatnot, they said was not even going to be enough. So it was like a whole new track. So it would be completely different data that they were getting during FP3. So anyway, qualifying.
Yeah. Well, for qualifying, so this go round, they're trying something new. They were going to do this in Imola, but obviously Imola was flooded and we couldn't do it. So to me, it was just like a sprint qualifying, right? Or the shootout qualifying, where the teams and the drivers were required to use a certain tire compound in each qualifying. So Q1, they used hards, Q2, they used mediums, and Q3s, you could use your softs. And they had to be really mindful about managing the tires because they went from the 13 that they usually get to 11. So apparently the teams were not really thrilled about this. And that was one thing that they were really doing in testing, as you saw, or testing in practice, was they were trying the hards, the mediums, the softs. They had to really get data for all of that because they needed to know what do we have to do for these. So in Q1, I thought, oh gosh, here we go again. Bunch of lap times deleted. Like, please do not let this be another race where it's just like, blah, blah, blah. But we had out in that one was Sargent, Albon, Magnussen, Russell, and then Yuki. And Russell and Toto, well, Toto especially, furious, absolutely furious. He was pounding his hand and not happy, but they got caught out kind of doing what drives Claire nuts.
Yeah. Don't wait till the end. Like it kills me when they wait till just, some of them take 2 minutes. 2 minutes. It's over a minute to get around the track. Somebody could impede you. So, and it doesn't matter that they got a penalty. You didn't get your track time. Like, you just go out at least 3 minutes. Go out at least 3 minutes. Give yourself at least twice. Like, or go out 4 so you can get.
I know it drives you nuts, but the whole track evolution and everything out, like you want that very last one, but you're spot on. Like that's what Russell said is we just got caught out. They got impeded as this is what drives me nuts is everybody backing up on that last, final turn so they can gear up and get a running start. And I think it was Alpine. I don't know if it was Gasly or Ocon just went right past Russell. And so that caught him out a little bit. And somebody else did the same thing. They lost precious time. And I think what we were really seeing with having everybody on the same tire is the times were so close. Like everybody was so close. So when you get caught out like that, you're screwed because you need every 10th of a second to get through. So, but he was out.
Well, it's one of those things. It's to me, if they keep doing something like this, it might have to change the team strategies. Where instead of waiting till the last thing, you're just gonna have to go out and push it hard all through quali. Like you're gonna have to go out and try harder earlier on. Yeah. And then if your time gets beat, then you're just going to try again. But like, other than you're talking about tire management with them having fewer tires, it's tough. It's tough.
It's very tough. And again, like you could set a great time, but we've seen that. And then the next time you look, they're way down the board because that track evolution just keeps getting faster and faster and faster. It's like you do almost just have to just be out there and just be flying lap. In Q2, I feel like there was also some people that we weren't expecting to go out. So Stroll, Riccardo, which I mean, good for Danny making it to Q2. So just
especially his first time out in the Alpha Tauri, because
yeah, but he's also new to that car. He's just learning it. It's not like he got a lot of time to practice with it.
That's something I was thinking about today. I was talking to my partner about, like, every other driver on this grid spent their first week out, or more on the practice track, getting to practice on the car and getting used to the car. And then their first week racing, they had time in that car. They'd been in the car for a while, practicing it, tweaking it to them, and then getting used to it. Danny hasn't had that. Like, he hasn't had that much time in the car to actually feel the car and get into the, and then it's like a practice round for him to me. This is almost like practice for him. I'm interested in what he does next week, because now he's had it a week to really get into it and take it at full speed, get it out there with other drivers. I'll give him this week. Next week, this is when I want to see him start to really push it, perform, because
Claire is like.
Then it's still an Alpha Tauri, though. It's still an Alpha Tauri.
It's still an Alpha Tauri. The other thing that really jumped out to me was not only is he just getting used to the car under, actual competitive conditions, but he has to also get used to his engineer. This is a new engineer for him. And what stood out to me, and I don't remember if it was in practice or it must have been practice, but the engineer said, there's rain coming. And Daniel had a list of questions like, when? Like, what corner is it going to be bad on? What do I need to look out for? And so just figuring out how they communicate, the engineer needs to know, okay, when I tell Daniel there's rain, these are the questions that I also need to provide him, the answers to, so he doesn't have to ask me. And so they're going to have to really work together, and it's going to take a second just for that part of it. We know how much the engineers are kind of in their ears. So it's not just the car, it's like the communication and building up that trust and confidence in each other. So I think that's going to be interesting, but I was happy that he did make it into Q2. Ocon was out, Gasly was out, and Sainz was out by 0.02 of a second. Could not believe it. Like, what in the world? But Norris at the top, that's insane.
That was amazing.
Amazing. And Charles was in the bottom. Both Ferraris were driving me nuts. And he jumped out
like McLaren.
What's that?
Why are they making me like McLaren?
I mean, I've kind of liked McLaren because I like Lando. So
I like
always
the
liked McLaren. What's that?
I like the drivers.
Yes. I don't like Zach Brown, but
Well, that's the thing.
I do like McLaren, but they were so bad at the beginning of the year. You just thought like, well, they're out. But I mean, I think they need the award we should have like a first half of the season award ceremony because most improved, hands down. Like most improved.
Comeback kids. Like, oh my gosh.
Insane. And then you had both Alfa Romeos into Q3, their best qualifying since 2012, 11 years.
That's amazing.
Like, isn't that
11
insane?
years.
And I don't even think they had more upgrades this week. I think it was just last week. So maybe Silverstone wasn't great for their upgrades, but like, and we'll talk about how they finished, but holy moly. And then Checo obviously getting through to Q3 for the first time since Miami. So yay, golf claps. Golf claps. And then we went to Q3 on the softs. And everybody was getting purple sectors. Every time they showed a driver, it was like, they have a purple. They have a purple in the middle. Like,
it was crazy.
Insane. Charles, I don't know what's happening with my Ferraris. He did not look good at all. But Lewis Hamilton, amazing. I didn't even think they'd get out of Q1. That was iffy. I think for both of them. Because I think he was kind of down there and then he jumped up, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he did.
To be the last car that comes across in Q3 and he gets it by 0.003.
Just
what?
Like by a hair. It was amazing.
Did you see the pictures?
Max, I would love to have seen Max's face at that point.
Oh, I would love to have heard his radio. But I don't know if you saw the pictures, but there was like here's Max or Lewis's car, and like Max's car is like, I don't know how to do this so you can see it. Like it's just like right there. It was minuscule, like what that was. And he cried.
That's so sweet.
I was crying
too. Again, I would have loved to have heard Max, heard his radio and seen his face under that helmet.
Yeah.
I'm very pissed.
I'm sure he wasn't happy. But the other thing I thought was really cool is that this was Lewis's 9th pole at the Hungaroring. And so I think that's pretty cool. He broke a record with that. Like just more poles than anybody at one particular circuit. Yay, Lewis. Amazing.
That's awesome. Considering all the records and everything they keep talking about for Max. Okay, well, there's one for you.
There's another one for you. And it was Lewis's first pole since 2021. So he's had a rough stretch. So I'm happy for him. And I posted this on our social media this morning because I kept thinking about it. But when you looked at the top 10 on the starting grid, okay, I just feel like it's not getting talked about enough. You had 7 different teams in the top 10. That's pretty darn cool. And that right there made me think like the cars are fairly competitive to each other, but also maybe this hard, medium, soft qualifying is really a good thing because it did kind of shake up the grid. So 7 different teams in the top 10, I thought was pretty cool. Zhou and Bottas, 5th and 7th. Lewis was on pole. And you only had 1 Mercedes, 1 Ferrari, and 1 Aston Martin in the top 10. So it wasn't just your usual suspects. Like it was a good mix of a lot of people on the grid. You had a Haas in there at 10th. Again, the Alfa Romeos were in there, both McLarens. So I just feel like that's not getting talked about enough. And I kind of wonder if they're going to move forward with this. So they're going to test this qualifying format again in Monza after the break. So I think after that, the principals will sit down and they'll kind of decide like, do we want to keep doing that? And I'm sure the FIA will probably have the final say. But if it turns out this way, like in Monza, I say keep it. I love it. Let's mix it up.
I thought it was cool. Yeah, and just to note, in Q2 you had Alpine and Haas. So that would have been teams 8 and 9. Yeah. And so the only one that didn't make it out of Q3 was Williams.
Yeah. Poor Williams, especially after last week. Oh my gosh. Or Silverstone, not last week. Yeah, they knew it was not going to be their race. That's just a real bummer because you need your car to be good at, or at least decent at all the tracks, not just, tracks where like Silverstone. But this race today, wow. That's all I can say. The start, amazing.
It was, yeah, the start was amazing. The amount of movement that happened, it was crazy. Yeah, I mean, first having both Alpines out right there at the beginning was crazy. I missed it. I totally missed what happened. And
I could see the dirt flying, but they were focusing on the front, which I get it. Like a lot was happening at the front. So when they went back and showed it, it was so sad. So Zhou went from 5th to like 16th almost immediately. And we didn't get a chance to watch the press conference afterwards because I really want to hear what happened. I don't know if his car stalled or whatever. It was like the light turned green or the lights went out and like he just sat there. And so the other cars had to go up around him. And so that's what like Gasly was trying to go up this way. And he just couldn't do it. So he bumped into Daniel once he got his car going. He bumped into Daniel. Daniel bumped into one of the Alpines. I think it was Ocon. Ocon flew, like his car was up, hit Gasly, and then they both ended up out. And then Zhou got a 5-second penalty for causing all of that. But oh my gosh. I mean, the Alpines, they are almost as unlucky as Haas this year. They cannot catch a break. And I don't think that was on either one of them. Like, I do think that Gasly had to go up the side of Zhou. I don't know where else he could have gone. So he was on the outside. And then, it just.
Yeah, I'm not sure where else I could have gone. I agree.
Everybody was, heading into that turn. They were all together. But can we just talk like Lewis did not have a great start. He dropped back to 4th instantly. Piastri, this guy off the start.
Amazing. That was amazing. I mean, both McLarens were doing great, but Piastri just.
He saw that opening and he took it. And I mean, I'm still impressed by his start in Silverstone. And to see this, like, he is not afraid to get in there and just go for it. Like, that was amazing. So for him to be in second, incredible. And then Carlos made up 5 places pretty quickly, which was awesome. I know Checo must have made up some spots also because where did he start?
He started 9th. And so 9th to 3rd. So he went up 6 places.
Okay. So, wait, was he in 3rd then? Oh, you just mean overall. Yeah, by the end. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely crazy. I just feel for Alfa Romeo though. Like, I want to know what their team briefing is like today because you start 5th and 7th and they ended up Zhou was like 16th or 15th or something.
They ended that's the starting grid. Hang on. Race results. Bottas was 12th and Zhou was 16th.
Yeah, 16th. I mean, how sad to start 5th and then you finish 16th. Like, that's awful. And Bottas, same thing. He was trying to stay up in the points or near the points. He just could not get that car over. So, I mean, I hate for there to be another team where it's like, yay, we have great 1-lap pace and, we can qualify well, but then we can't do anything once we hit the race. So that was kind of disappointing, to say the least. And Aston Martin,
I don't know what's up with them. It's like, again, like you said, they started out with such a great car and then nothing. It's like, and if they did do the cost cap, like, does that mean they've got nothing that they can do over the summer? Do they've got, like, they've got to bring something because the car was showing so well. And it kills me because I swear, I feel like that Fernando has spent much of this year kind of just riding it. Like he gets up there and he gets in the top 3 and he's like, I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm just going to chill, except in Canada when he's like, I can win this. I can win this. And they were having problems.
Yeah.
That's the only time I heard him go, I can win this. And then he was being held back because they thought they were having problems, and then they held him back. And it's like, now it's like, well, okay, I'm a team player and Stroll can be ahead of me, or, and I haven't seen any push since. Like, that's it. And they have this bold statement, we're going to be on podium the rest of the year. Well, you just jinxed yourself for the rest of the year.
Yeah, that was pretty darn bold. I just don't know that their car. Sorry, go ahead. I want you to finish your thought.
No, I just then I haven't seen anything. And with all these other upgrades coming out, like Aston Martin, you need to do something. You started out strong, and now what? Now what? You've got to do something, both the car, and I think Fernando. Are you just happy with points? Because
I don't think
you can't say you're just happy with points if you're just happy with points. You know?
I don't think that he is just happy with points. I think that they started off with a really strong car, but you've had all of these other cars with upgrades, the Mercedes, the McLarens, that their upgrades just suited their cars better, and they're just outperforming you. I don't think that it's not that he's not trying, because I think Fernando wants to win. I just don't think their car cannot compete with the upgrades of these other teams. They just can't. So they've got to figure out, like you said, what do we do next?
He's about to lose his position. They just updated the standings after the race. He's 139. Hamilton's 133.
Ooh.
He is about to lose his third place position.
Oh, yikes. Yeah, Hamilton's been on a roll.
And Mercedes is now shot way ahead of Aston Martin. They're 223 and Aston Martin's 184 and Ferrari's 167.
I think again with that, you've got George has been performing really well. Like, even if something screws up, he's been somehow squeaking in there. Today he ended up 6th thanks to Charles Leclerc's 5-second penalty. His 5-second penalty for speeding in the pits.
And he started 18th.
This is what I'm saying. So you've got both of the Mercedes drivers hauling in the points, and you really only have Fernando doing it for Aston Martin. Lance has kind of been off the grid. Well, not totally off the grid.
Today Lance got a point and Fernando got 2.
Yeah.
And honestly, one of their races, they got more points because Aston Martin is the one who petitioned about the grid penalties, and then that moved them up.
Yeah, that did not make me happy. That I am holding a grudge on that. But because if you heard at the end of that race, Fernando said how far ahead is Sainz. He knew Fernando, the strategist, he knew before they even parked those cars, we have a play here. And sure enough, but yeah, that's what I'm saying is, like, Mercedes is hauling in the points. They're finishing higher, and both cars are finishing higher. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I can't imagine Papa Stroll is going to be happy with them just continuing at this pace the rest of the season. So they'll be back. I know it. They'll be back. It's just, will they be able to catch what, like, the McLarens have clearly done? It's insane.
Well, speaking of Ferrari, like, what's up with that? Like,
I don't know. Well, I think we haven't brought any kind of upgrades that's doing anything for our car. Our strategy still sucks. Like, it's terrible. And you've got
9.4 seconds what in the heck?
That was at the front. Was it the front left tire? Couldn't get off. Don't know why. Could not get that tire off to save their life. But again, like,
he might as well have served a penalty. And that was the second penalty. Like,
yeah, he had the penalty on top of that. So if you had just a regular old pit stop and it's 2 seconds, 3 seconds, whatever, you've made up, like, the penalty time, basically. I don't get it. And then Carlos has to do 2 jobs. He can't just be a driver. He also has to be a strategist, which we've talked about many times. So early on, the team's like telling him to box because he started on softs. He did want to make a move from 11th, and he did. He got up, made up the places on the softs, and his engineer was like, "We need to box," and he's like, "No, it's too early, too early." So then on lap 15, strategist Carlos is on the thing to his engineer, and he's like, "I see Checo's behind me. I know he wants to pass me. I know I need to box, but I'm not going to just yet." And his strategist is like, "Good call. Good call." Like, I mean, he should get paid extra. The strategy salary plus his driver salary for all of that. You mentioned Charles' pit stop, terrible. And then on lap 42, Charles like, yeah, I want to get past Carlos. He was 2 seconds behind him. Like, you're not even that close. Like, what in the world? And his engineer's like, "Yeah, we're working on it. We're working on it." And that Charles wasn't happy. "What do you mean you're working on it? Like, I want past."
Go, Charles, then speed up.
Right. Do better. Like, do something. Then he got the 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Ridiculous. So to me, what's so frustrating is it just seems like they're fighting for points in the bottom. And I wanted to look it up and I haven't had time, but I feel like they're just down there at 9 and 10, 7 and 8, like 8 and 9.
They're currently 6th and 7th in the standings with Carlos 7 points ahead.
They're trying everything they can to make sure that Charles gets ahead. That's for sure. But yeah, I don't know. Just from a car standpoint, do better. Like, you guys are fighting for the bottom of the top 10. You're Ferraris. Shouldn't be that way. I'm losing my mind.
Lando is chomping.
What's that?
Lando's catching up now.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it. 2 podiums in a row. Yeah, he's raking in the points. Like, we're like, yay, we got 2 points. He got what, 15? I don't even remember what they get for second place. Like,
I think 18.
Yeah. And then you've got Mercedes, your second favorite team.
Yep.
I thought it was interesting. Sometimes I feel like they're doing worse than they really are because of the way they talk on the radio, or even as they talk as a team. Like, "Oh, our cars look terrible in practice. We suck." And you're like, dang it, they're going to be down in the bottom. No, they're still up there. But Lewis was asking his engineer, "How are the McLarens 9 seconds ahead of me already?" And I think it was right after they all had pitted. And he's like, "How is that even possible?" And I don't think they had an answer then. But later on, his engineer said, "You're losing time on the straights," which we know they're not good on the straights. And there were 2 corners that he said they were losing time in. So
at one point he's like, "I'm going as fast as I can," or something like that. He's like, "I'm pushing as fast as I can." I'm like, "Oh, that's not good. That's not good. If you're telling him you're going as fast as you can."
Yeah, exactly. But then he still ended up 4th. And we both thought that he was going to catch Checo.
I really did. I thought, like, if yours was one more lap, I thought he's going to pass him.
Yeah, that was really a great battle between them. Like, just the defensive driving from Lewis, and to keep Checo behind him. But it did give Piastri probably a little bit of like relief, because if they were fighting with each other, they weren't going to get closer to Piastri. Because if Checo was able to just pass Lewis, like his engineer was like, pick him off, like reel him in, do whatever you need to do. It was crazy. Crazy. But let's talk about Russell some more. You said he started 18th, finished 6th. What in the world?
He's racking up in points. He's up to 90 points in the driver's standing with Hamilton at 133. So he's 3 points ahead of Carlos. So he's pushing hard. I mean, to have these, and think about that, I think he's had 1 or 2 DNFs. And so he's had some car issues to be that high up.
Yeah.
Still with car issues. I mean, George is really pushing it hard. He's not really getting much on the podium, but he's really pushing hard.
He really is. And he passed Carlos on the 66th lap, like 4 laps before. before the end. So there's, some of your points right there. Like,
Yeah.
and then, obviously with Charles' penalty, he got bumped up. That's like a free spot, but like, come
Which
on.
I really thought, again, that's another one, given another lap, I think he could have passed Charles because he made up that 5 seconds. He was down to, I think he was within a half a second.
It was crazy because both him and Lewis, like, it's like they had extra turbo speed at the end. Like, all of a sudden they were both like really going, just, I don't know, they were so fast. It's like, dang, this is the end of the race. But you know what I thought was weird is that Russell wanted to pit at the end, like towards the end.
Yeah, and then they said they thought maybe that radio was from earlier or something. That the commentators did say that. And by the way, he was within a half a second of Charles.
Wow, he would have caught him. He was a
half a second because after adding the 5 second penalty, it was 65.8 and then 70.3. Is it the difference? So he was within a half a second. After that, he got within a half a second in those last 5 laps. That's amazing. He got up. Amazing. That's gaining a second a lap. He was gaining on him. That's amazing.
If they just had a little bit more.
Yeah, one more lap. That's another one. One more lap. I think one more lap because I think one more lap, he would have gotten it in another lap or so. I think Lewis may have been able to take out surgery. And you think about that, that's a Mercedes going against a Red Bull that he might have been able to take it out. I mean, the tires and whatnot, but one more lap. If he had done that one more lap, and Carlos would have pushed a little bit harder with that 5 second penalty, there was only 0.7 seconds between Charles and Carlos. So if Carlos had just pushed it a little bit further, that 5 second penalties would have put Charles behind Carlos. It would have knocked him down 2 places. Yeah.
But that makes me wonder, like, if the team was like, you're good, stay where you're at, because they want
I know. Like, are they not telling Carlos to push it harder? To get like, hey, he's got a penalty, push it a little bit harder because you could be ahead of him?
Yeah, probably not. I think they want Charles to have the points. Charles, their number 1 driver, and that's what they want. So
if they would have done that, it was a difference of 2. So then it would have been Carlos would have gotten 6 points and Charles would have gotten 4. So that would have put them, instead of being 7 points apart, subtract 2. Actually, they would have only been 3 points.
Wowza.
That's huge.
Dang. I don't know what's happening over there, but they've got to figure it out. But McLaren, you got your McLaren car right behind you.
I moved it closer because they're getting closer and closer.
Pretty soon next week, it's going to be right in the, like, right here.
I was like, put it right here. So, oh my gosh. I love both of these boys. They are just, both of them are just, I love their attitudes. I love everything about the 2 drivers themselves and their strategies. And I almost thought, like, it's like, I think what I like about Piastri with him is he just, like, I don't know. There was something about him in, like, when he went off the road, it was just like, oh, whatever. I'm sure he's used to driving off road. It didn't bother him a bit. Like when he got pushed off a little bit.
Yeah.
And they're like, was it because it was him that got pushed off, right? And
Checo.
Yeah. And he's like, and they asked him, he's like, oh, I just didn't have a lot of room. There wasn't much room. It wasn't like I'm going to blame him or whatnot. He goes, you didn't give me a lot of room. You just kept going. And I'm thinking, oh, this kid, he's driven off road before. He's fine.
He really is, like, such a cool, like, cat on the radio. They noticed it in Silverstone when, they told him wherever he finished up 3rd, I think, for the starting grid. And I noticed that again today. And that was one thing that I noticed what you just said is he was just like, yeah, he didn't leave me a lot of space. He doesn't seem like he's going to be that driver that's like, he pushed me off and, he's doing this and that. He's not a tattletale. He's just like, okay. He just overall, every time, he's like, okay, what do you want from me right now? Copy, he's just like so even keel. And I love that he is not afraid to get in there. Like the beginning we talked about, saw his opening ticket, that whole battle with Checo. He was like, no, I'm going to fight for this. And he was wheel to wheel. I kind of thought they were going to touch, but that little battle, I think he's letting these more senior drivers know, like, I might be a rookie, but you're not going to get past me that easy. You're going to
He's not driving like a rookie. He is not driving like a rookie. You would
No.
never know if you're new to sport and didn't know if you just turned out. You would never know that that was a rookie and not a rookie battling it out. That was amazing.
I'm so impressed with him, and I'm hoping I said that he was the rookie I wanted to watch. I can't remember which one I said. Probably Nick, but anyways, I just think he is looking so good, and whatever they did to this car to give these drivers like the opportunity to show their skills, to drive and to be up at the top, amazing. Piastri, I was a little worried about him because he did have a black and white flag, and so I thought, well, they thought that Norris might have been speeding in the pits, but that never got called out. And then Piastri had the black and white flag, and I thought, how devastating would it be if they both got penalties, like ticky-tack penalties, and finished out off the podium? But it didn't happen, so that was pretty amazing. Norris, I don't feel is as calm. I think he gets a little flustered because when his engineer was like, Checo is 6 seconds behind, he's like, I'm going as fast as I can. Like, I don't know what you want from me. So
yeah, I think he gets flustered, and he I don't know, yeah, he does, and then he just, even when he wins, he's like, they're pretty close in age. Like Piastri's 22, Norris is 23.
Yeah.
He wears his heart on his sleeve a little bit more.
I think that's a nice way to put that, for sure. And he does. And it's one of the things I love about Lando. I think he's funny. He just kind of says what he says, but also back-to-back podiums for him. And I think that's the first time that he's ever had back-to-backs.
I loved what he said. I loved what he said too, where they asked him, he's like, oh, so do you think he'll win soon? He goes, unless something happens to Max and he just suddenly has a major issue or whatnot. No.
Yeah.
No, there's not, unless something happens to the Red Bull, something catastrophic. No, there's not going to be a win, but we're doing great. Like, more podiums, baby. I really was on that. It's like, no, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, no. And I feel like Fernando was saying the same thing. Like, everybody knows it's Max's world and we're just living in it. But like, heading on to Red Bull, I think what I had jotted down was like, Max is Max. Like, I don't think there's a whole lot to talk about. Like, he's a great driver. He's doing awesome with the car. He's always many seconds ahead. But Checo, oh my goodness. So Checo is riding this, I feel like, this bubble, right? Like, he's crashing out in FP1, qualifies in 9th in the top 10. And once again, he's just picking off the drivers from like the middle of the pack.
He's one error away from losing it all. He's one mishap away. Like, he just, if he doesn't have the perfect race, he's just not there. And that's not good. Like, he just,
good point.
He can't, like, he has one little thing and it just throws him, right? And that's, I mean, he's a good comeback kid. I mean, he came back and look what he did, and he can fight for it. But if he didn't, even he got the Q3, but he qualified P9. Like, why? Like, why couldn't you do what you did yesterday and qualify higher, and then you wouldn't have to fight so hard? Because we see him fight so hard. If he qualified higher, he wouldn't have to fight so hard, right? Same with Russell. We've seen him do these amazing comebacks and progress so far up and overtake. If you had qualified higher, you would have finished higher, most likely.
They make it so much harder on themselves. And I think, like, I relate to, like, watching golf and stuff, like, where you can come back, but you have to be like birdie, to get back up to the front. You're just putting so much pressure on yourself. Like, consistency is key. Like, I mean, I think what Red Bull also has going for them, the car, obviously, but they also have great strategists that, they time these pit stops perfectly. They know what they need to do. They're encouraging to the drivers, like, go get them, reel them in. And so we'll have to see what happens next week with Checo. I think you make a very, very good point that he's just usually like one thing away from kind of
One
messing
thing,
it up.
it seems to shake his confidence. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, when he does really good, he does really good.
Yeah.
When he falters, I mean, it's with a lot, but it just, unfortunately with him, I worry, like, if he didn't have the Red Bull car, he wouldn't be as dominant as he is.
No, definitely not.
And that's kind of the argument you talk about with like Max. I think could Max win 12 times in a row in another car? No. Could he win a lot in another car? Yes. He's a really good driver. Could he win this many times in Alpha Tauri? No. It's not that good of a car. No. Could he win still in the Alpha Tauri? I think Max could find a way to still possibly win in that car. And maybe even in the Williams, maybe, because he's a good driver. The Red Bull it's the car, because that's the beauty of F1. It's the car, it's the strategy, it is the driver, it's all of it combined.
Yes, exactly.
One thing before we get into Beyond the Grid, because I know we're already at an hour and we've had a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed more before any other race, or more in this race, at the very end shot of the race, the camera angle came down and shot across Max's car at the tires. Did you see how tore up those tires were?
Yeah.
I was just blown away because he kept talking about the wobbling or the waddling and whatnot. I was like, oh, I can see, because those used to be slick. They're not slick anymore. No. They were chewed up, just destroyed. I was like, I would.
They were definitely destroyed. Part of me wonders, because he did mention the marbles, and the marbles is like the little tire pieces that are coming off of other cars. And he was saying, I think at the beginning of, like, after they come around the final turn, he was picking up stuff there, and he said it takes a whole lap to kind of shake them off. So I was curious how much of it was his tire being degraded, or did he pick up some of those marbles at the end, and then when he parked, it was still there?
And it was like melding into his tires because of the heat. Yeah, it was just like, that was just interesting. So if anybody's watching, if you didn't notice, you just cut it out, go back, watch the recording, and look at the end, because it is fascinating to just see the effects of the heat and the wear on these tires that you don't see in your day-to-day tires, and just see his tires. Then their cars don't suffer tire degradation like any other car out there. And it's just, they were just shot, completely shot. It was crazy.
Nuts. I also am not sure, like, and we need to touch on this very quickly, but their side pods. So they had new side pods. They brought in new brake ducts. I don't know that the side pods necessarily gave them that much of an advantage this weekend.
He was back to a big lead, though, because remember last week it was less than a 10-second lead, and this week he was a 33-second lead.
Oh, I didn't realize how far ahead he was. Okay, so I take it back. Never mind. Maybe the side pod. Adrian Newey is working in his lab, and he knows what he's doing. Okay, take it back. Totally take it back.
Yeah, 30. I just looked at the end. 33-second lead for the end. So I think maybe it helped him out with something.
Yeah. Okay. I take that back. So this was 12 victories in a row for Red Bull. So they set another F1 record. No team has ever done that before. So again, Red Bull racking up the records, and Max is what everybody.
Before that was McLaren at 11, right?
I think so. Yeah, because I think.
Yeah, they said it broke McLaren's record.
Yeah, they tied it last in Silverstone. So absolutely nuts. And Max has won every race since Miami. So, I mean, insane. Okay, Beyond the Grid, Kevin Magnussen became a dad for the second time. He's a girl dad. I love it. So his little kids are so cute, like total towheads. At least the older daughter, total little towhead, like adorable. And it's awesome that it worked out. They planned it for the off week, so before he had to go back to work, and then 2 weeks on, and then he'll be off for the summer break, which is kind of nice. Episode 7 of F1 Drivers Living My Life. They all went to Wimbledon. I had started that last week before the final match. And then by the end of, after the final matches last week, and I think they all had been there. George was in the royal box, Zhou, Oscar, everybody went to Wimbledon. This I love because I do think Special Olympics is amazing. But Zhou was named a Special Olympics Global Ambassador, and he'll be working to create a more inclusive world. And we knew that he was in Germany at the Special Olympics Games a couple weeks ago, and I just love that about him. I love Zhou. I think he's awesome. I'm so bummed for him today, but I love that he's getting in there and doing it. And Go Tiffy. If you're new, you may not know who Nicholas Latifi is. They call him Go Tiffy because he was instrumental in Max winning his first world championship. He lost his seat last year with Williams. They put in Logan Sargent, but he announced after he's basically been off social media for a year, he's going back and getting his MBA. So good for him. Yeah, he's moving forward. Okay, we have one more race before summer break. I don't know what we're going to do for a whole entire month.
We can spotlight some teams. We can talk about.
We will.
Stuff.
We're going to reflect too. I really want to reflect on the season. Like I said, I want to look back and see what teams we were excited to watch, from practice and then the very first race, which rookies and how are they doing now. But next week we have Spa, so the Belgian Grand Prix. It's a classic F1 track, 44 laps. So it's a longer track. I think it's the longest circuit on the calendar. So only 44. Like
when they qualify, they need to come out even sooner.
Claire, you send that email out tomorrow. Just reminding them. There's 2 DRS zones.
Spamming them on social media. WTF.
Yeah, there's 2 DRS zones. It is one of just 7 circuits that was part of the maiden Formula One championship. So it's been around for a long time. The drivers do seem to like the track because it's definitely a mix of straights. There's some challenging corners. They can push their cars. Because the circuit is so big and they do tend to end up with a lot of weather there, it can be totally dry on one part of the track and raining on the other side.
That's so cool.
So that could be interesting. The Eau Rouge, it could definitely is probably one of the most famous sequences out there. People probably like the, Beckett's and stuff like that in Silverstone. You hear Eau Rouge and usually people know what that is. They kind of go left and right and then they go up a hill. But it's also been very dangerous. So unfortunately, a lot of drivers have lost their lives there, especially when it is wet. A month or so ago, we talked about the young man who was, trying to work his way through, get up into Formula One, who lost his life there. A lot of drivers are asking for changes or calling for changes to that part of the track. So it's a very exciting track, but it can also be very dangerous. So I don't know what the weather looks like for next weekend, but hopefully it's okay. And hopefully everybody comes through all right. But one more race and then we're on to summer break.
One more race.
Yeah.
Great goal. Oh,
Yay.
One thing before we go that I thought was interesting that the commentators were talking about on this race was there was the back and forth about was this track in Hungary the first track built specifically for F1? Did you hear them talking about that? One of the pre-shows. Yeah, it was like, was this? And then the commentator, is it Will? Is it his name? Who's on paternity leave right now?
Will Buxton.
He messages them during the live broadcast and is like, no, there was this other one, and he was giving them all the deets of one that was actually done, but Hungary kind of beat them out or something like that. So yeah, there was like a whole bunch of stuff about the trivia of if Hungary was the first track built specifically for F1.
Oh, that's so funny. I love Will Buxton. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's obviously watching, and he's like, but I'll be back next week.
Oh, good. Yay. I know they've had different people filling in for him, but I love him and Laura together, especially. I love Sam Collins. Don't get me wrong. He's awesome. But they've had some other people kind of filling in, and Will has that kind of a knowledge. Like, I can't wait for him to come back.
It was awesome. Anyway, I forgot about that earlier. Anyway, okay, so next week, And then we'll do lots of education and stuff over the summer. We need to, because I definitely want to reflect too on what I've learned in this time period. Because now I feel like I've been around the bush now. So
it's definitely been a roller coaster. I love that. Yeah, I want you to reflect. That sounds super cool. All right.
All right. Awesome. Thanks for the ride, everyone. And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe and leave a rating and a review. To stay up to date with She Loves the Grid and get all the behind-the-scenes content, you can follow us on Instagram at She Loves the Grid and on Facebook at facebook.com/She Loves the Grid. Thank you for joining us for the ride this week.